GEM International is a new diamond explorer in the richest diamond producing country in Africa, located next to the fourth largest producing diamond mine in the world. International Spotlight is on an 1109 carat diamond recently discovered in Africa by a fellow Canadian junior with a proven operator and finance team. GEM International trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol GI. Visit us at gemdiamondmining.com.
I'm Larry Ray, President and CEO of American Manganese Inc., listed on the TSX Venture, ticker symbol AMY, A-M-Y, with proprietary patents in the U.S., China, and South Africa. Our focus is on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. China recently legislated the responsibility for recycling onto their electric vehicle manufacturers and importers. For more information, please visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Cindy Solda. She's a former Port Alberni City Councillor, a post she held for 14 years. She was the acting chair of the association that represents coastal communities in British Columbia. She's been a board member of the Union of BC Municipalities. Cindy, it looks like you've done it all as a municipal politician.
Well, not all. There's more to do eventually, someday.
You're a big fan of the Mars water bomber, aren't you?
I am. I think they have their place in BC.
Now, of course, the Mars water bomber, for people who aren't familiar with it, it's a giant aircraft. It has 4 engines, and until the 747 was invented, it was the largest flying aircraft in the world. And at this very moment, it is still the world's most effective forest fire fighter. It can put out 4 acres of fire. That's the equivalent of 4 football fields, if you can look at that in your imagination. And it's the equivalent of 9 of those little pontoon firefighter planes that they use right now. In other words, if a fire starts somewhere, Cindy, you call in the Mars, it's out right away, isn't it?
It is. And you know what? I think they have a lot of benefit. Like, we had a fire in our Sprout Lake. If the Mars had been called out, would it have been out? Probably, because the fire is small, and then of course it grew. Would the Mars have taken it out? Probably, yes.
Now, I know now the Mars water bomber, because they cannot get long-term contracts or even short-term contracts from the government, Wayne Coulson, the president of Coulson Flying Tankers, has been put in the awful position of putting these 2 aircraft up for sale, the Mars Hawaii and the other Martin Mars, I forget the name of it. But these giant aircraft, they're such assets. And for one of them to be proposed to be put in a museum and the other one perhaps a museum piece, isn't that horrible? He has updated the avionics. They're the most modern in the world. In other words, the Mars can fly in heavy smoke or fog when other aircraft are grounded. Why wouldn't you want the equivalent of 10 fire trucks in the sky fighting your fires? Can provincial politicians explain why not?
Well, you know, when I look at the UBCM and the AVSCCs, the City of Port Alberni put an emergency resolution together to the UBCM to ask the province to, I actually can tell you, whereas the Martin Mars water bomber has served the British Columbia Forest Service since 1960, and it's the largest direct attack fire suppression aircraft in the world. And without the Mars, the British Columbia Forest Service has no direct attack airplanes to fight urban interface wildfires. So we asked in August 31st, 2013, when the Mars contract was to expire with the BC government, and the resolution was, therefore, be it resolved that the province of British Columbia be urged to renew the contract with the Coulson Group and retain the Martin Mars water bomber as part of its fire suppression program in the interest of its effectiveness in direct attacks, delivery costs, and its long-term utility and its ability to create safe zones throughout strategic drops. And you know what? It passed by it got endorsed by all the mayors, regional districts, in the province. And you know what? They didn't do a thing. We fought it, we tried, and I think people should still get out there and fight to have those planes still in the air. They have bent over backwards. The AVICC executive has sent out letters saying to the government, this was in writing, this was done, and you haven't done anything. How effective is the AVICC and the UBCM if you're not going to listen to us? And this is not just, you can get 10,000 signatures, but you would now have the mayors, regional districts, all behind, and MLAs as well as MPs saying, let's get out there and let's get the Mars water bomber back. And I'm so frustrated when I hear that the government was not going to go ahead with it. They sent me a generic letter back saying, thank you for your letter, just like they would send to everybody, and nothing was done. And I think it's a loss for this whole province, the Canada. If United States has said to Wayne Coulson, send the Mars water bomber, we'll pay to have our fires out. If Europe has done the same thing, where is BC? Where is Canada? Where are they? Why aren't they listening to? Why is the rest of the world going ahead with the Mars water bomber? Why isn't Canada or BC? Those are my questions.
Do you feel scared living in a community that's cheek by jowl with the forest, knowing that there's nothing out there besides the Mars that can quash that fire right away? Well,
according to the province, they say there is. And if it's not broken, why are you fixing it? Why take it away? If Wayne Coulson has done everything that the province wanted to change everything, why are you taking away? Of course you're scared. We live in a coastal community. We're surrounded by trees. Fire hits one of our communities, almost like, as an example, in Port Alberni. And the thing is, what's frustrating is it's sitting right there and they can't do a darn thing. The Mars could not go up in the air because, of course, they didn't get the okay. And that must have been really frustrating. It was frustrating for the public and other fires. I look at it and it's really frustrating.
Well, Fort McMurray, the Alberta Premier claimed there weren't any bodies of water nearby that the Mars could fly from, but it has a range of 3,000 miles. I'm sure it could have found water somewhere to help out there.
I believe it could, but it's not. It doesn't just drop water. It drops chemicals too, a different type of chemical, and I'm not sure exactly what that chemical was, but they do drop other things. And also, it's fully crewed. It has a speed. It can get back there. A big drop, like you said, football fields, right? I mean, it's the fire crew that takes out the fire. It's the water bomber that will mitigate and will help it. When you read about it, I just have a little. It says here, as noted previously, landing at airports is not only useful to load long-term fire retardants from small and large planes or a thermal gel from smaller planes and reduces, and I believe Wayne Coulson can put thermogel in his planes. You would have to talk to Wayne about that.
Of course. And, but even if it had to fly a few hundred miles to find water, which I find hard to believe, in Canada, the world's richest place for fresh water in the world. Anyway, if you're a politician, knowing you want to protect your city, I can't think of one city in British Columbia that it doesn't have somewhere, on its boundary, a forest or a bog or something that could catch fire and threaten the rest of the city.
Exactly. I totally agree with you. It doesn't take long for the Mars to be up in the air and running. Canada, don't we? We think Canada is a wonderful place to live, and I just have some problems with that. Remember, I believe the Mars water bomber has 8,800 gallon water capacity.
Yes, it does.
That's pretty big. That's a lot.
Right, and as we said, it puts out 4 acres of fire. If you want to start comparing acres to hectares, Stanley Park is 1,000 acres or 400 hectares. And by the way, what if Stanley Park had a massive fire? Yeah,
we can't afford to do that. I look at the price and the dollars that the province has spent, and I know the Coulson Mars water bomber doesn't even come close to what the province has spent. I just want to say that, well, I have this note here about the Mars water bomber. The challenges of older technology on the Mars are undeniable. We know that. The professionalism and the speed and the maintenance crew that take care of the bomber is crucial, which there always is. I mean, the plane is always being looked after. The Mars has rarely been down for more than a day in its history when it's been called upon to fight a fire. The crew can even replace an entire engine in a matter of hours as they stock multiple engines for planes at their base. And recently, there was, a few years back, a big fire in California. There's always fires in the U.S. and Mexico, and Mars have proven it can be on top of the fire constantly and consistently for days on end without fail. And what does that tell you right there? You know, it drops a pattern of 4 acres, and it creates situations where the entire fire is prevented from becoming a major concern when ultimately protect firefighters and reduces their work in fully containing and mopping up the fire. So, wow. What can I say, you know?
Well, Cindy, I've been told the firefighters, the professional firefighters in BC have been told they cannot comment on the Mars water bomber unless they want to lose their jobs.
No, they can't. We have been told that even in 2013 when the politicians started fighting for the Mars water bomber, we had heard there's been a gag order, and it was really hard to get information. The province put a gag order going. Yeah, I heard that.
Plus, I've talked to Wayne Coulson, the owner, and I said, Wayne, what if you put modern turboprops on the Mars, like your brand new C-130Hs? Now, apparently, those engines on the new Hercules are so powerful, you can literally not overload that airplane. Something like 30 to 40,000 horsepower available. Now, imagine that on the Mars. That means it could carry even more water, and he would gladly put modern engines on it if he had some kind of assurance that the plane would be used. If engines are the problem, he says it's no problem to fix that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Wayne Coulson has said, we will do, what else do you want us to do on the Mars? We can do it for you. In a few years back, it was a $63 million budget for the wildfires, right? And which is, we know we overspend that. We have one major fire, and of course, $63 million goes out the window. The $690,000 contract to keep the Mars is a fraction of that budget. That's not even there. You know, we need more money, and $690,000. It might be more now for a contract with the Mars. I don't know. That would be between the province and Wayne. But at that time, it was $690,000, and that is just
$690,000. $690,000?
Yeah, that was one time. That was a one-time contract to keep the Mars water bomber. Wayne could probably. That was a while back. Now that probably was in 2013. It's probably a lot more now. You know,
the price of fuel has come down since then.
Yeah,
it would be less.
Yeah, well, you know, it doesn't, and I'm sure the $63 million budget is a lot higher now.
Right, and of course the Fort Mac fire will cost the insurance industry $9 billion. You know, hiring an airplane for the price of a house in Vancouver sounds pretty cheap. In fact, you couldn't find a house in Vancouver for a price like that.
No, and we know, you know, I mean, everybody that's on the ground that fights the fires and everybody else, I mean, they do amazing jobs with what they have and the training that they have. But it's all about life first, and then, you know, and we're talking human life, and then we also have the animal life, and, you know, and then you got everything else on top of that. You know, is it worth somebody's life? I don't think so.
And, you know, of course, if the water bombers are sold, you're never going to get them back because people will realize the treasures that they have under their roof.
You're right. Once something's gone, it's gone. There's a little write-up here, and I don't know if I sent it to you, but it says that Premier Christy Clark said this in July, and this is in 2013, when her riding was under evacuation orders from the Smith Creek fire. It was said the province will not stop spending money on fighting fires just because it's an expense. There is no doubt the Mars is more expensive than other assets. However, it has been proven over 54 years of service to be worth that expense, especially in the times of great need. And with the new technology and thermal gel added to the Mars capabilities, that expense has been further justified to save homes and communities from damage. How is that?
So what has changed in the last 2 years? All of a sudden that plane doesn't work anymore?
Who knows? It's election year coming up in another year, isn't it?
Right, and her house isn't under threat of fire right now, is it?
That's right. I've always believed that, people talk about fire departments, about firefighters, etc., and the Mars. If you have a fire in your backyard, you sure are going to love having that plane. You sure going to love having the firefighters. You're going to be there for them, and it's amazing how people change when it's in their own backyard.
I have a cousin who works in Fort McMurray, part of that evacuation effort, where the fire was right up next to the highway. Now, can you imagine how much better he would have felt if the Mars would have been available and put out that fire alongside the highway? We talked about it last week in Edmonton. He said they were terrified, and if the Mars could have been there, even if it had to fly in from Edmonton and back, they still would have appreciated the fact that him and his family could get out safer and more safely.
You feel a little more secure, wouldn't you? You'd sleep better at night.
Absolutely.
I totally agree. And the government has said to us, because the city of Port Alberni went to the UBCM and the AVICC, put the emergency resolution in regarding let's save the water bombers and get them up in the air to help fires across the province. And the government was saying, well, you're just saying that because it's been in this valley and it's amazing to watch them fly. Yes, it is amazing to watch them fly, but we know that they're heroes. They're going to be part of that team to put out fires throughout the province, and they're from Port Alberni. Yes, we know that, and that's such a positive, not just from our community, but you talk to other people from the mayors, the regional districts, from other provinces, and when that Mars water bomber comes into their community to help save a home, save land, everything like that, they appreciate what we have here.
Well, I believe then, Cindy, I know firefighting is a provincial responsibility, and that's the excuse that the province is going to give. Yep. They don't have the money to keep it on standby. How about the Canadian government buy it and make it part of the Air Force and available to anywhere in Canada? Well, how about that as a solution?
Well, that would be the Canadian. You're talking about Air Force and the government buying it. It would probably, I would have no problem with that, and I'm sure Wayne wouldn't. But people are always talking, is it better to contract out or not contract out? What is better? I mean, all governments go through that. Why don't you contract it out instead of owning it? So maybe contracting is a lot cheaper than actually owning it, because then they'll have to set up the infrastructure for it. Why would you do that when it's already there?
Exactly. We have the perfect firefighting machine, and they're not using it. I would feel embarrassed. Well, to me, this is the equivalent of your neighbor's house catches fire. The neighbors next door start training a garden hose on it. But right next door to that is a fire engine, but it's locked up and you can't use it.
That's right.
Do you feel that way?
Okay.
Do you feel that way?
It's frustrating, yes. Yes.
Do we have to lose lives? We were ready, lucky that in Fort Mac nobody lost their lives. It was close. Do we have to see Canadians burned to death before they consider keeping the Mars?
Well, that's really dramatic, and hopefully that I don't even want to have that visual, but, when I look at, it's not just life, it's the homes, it's the costs, it's the insurance. It's such a dominoes effect, it's when we say people's lives, I'm not saying physically their lives. I'm saying physically their homes, their belongings, their whole life are in those houses, and like Fort McMurray. You'll never recover that back, and hopefully, physically, not a life. Like you said, there was no life lost in that fire. We were fortunate.
It's sure luck.
Yes, we were, and communities across the province sent donations and stuff like that. Unfortunately, some things were the wrong things, because you can only have so many things, and the dollars. And the province knows that Canada comes across and sends dollars to help with fires and that, but that's still not the answer. Get the Mars up, help mitigate some of the fire.
We'll have more with Cindy Solda next here on the Goddard Report.
GEM International is a new diamond explorer in the richest diamond producing country in Africa, located next to the fourth largest producing diamond mine in the world. International Spotlight is on an 1109 carat diamond recently discovered in Africa by a fellow Canadian junior with a proven operator and finance team. GEM International trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol GI. Visit us at gemdiamondmining.com.
I'm Larry Ray, President and CEO of American Manganese Inc., listed on the TSX Venture, ticker symbol AMY, A-M-Y, with proprietary patents in the U.S., China, and South Africa. Our focus is on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. China recently legislated the responsibility for recycling onto their electric vehicle manufacturers and importers. For more information, please visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
In Goddard we trust.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Cindy Solda, former city councillor for Port Alberni and the acting chair of the association that represents coastal communities in British Columbia. Well, now that Wayne Coulson is talking about selling off the Mars water bomber, I've been told that now it's going to become, at least in the short term, the world's most expensive amusement ride. If you're a licensed pilot, if you pay 25 grand, he'll teach you how to fly this beast and then do an actual water pickup and drop over 2 days. Now, 25 grand may sound like a lot, but there are pilots out there who have already signed up for it, so they think this opportunity that might disappear is something to take advantage of. But Cindy, do you feel it's a shame that this water-fighting animal is going to be used as an amusement ride?
Yeah, it makes me sad. I can't even tell you how, if you saw me visually, you would know. It really makes me sad because, an amusement park type of, this plane has its purpose in life, and it's doing it. It was doing it, and it's sad.
And Wayne said, look, the plane may be 70 years old, but here's the deal. It lands and takes off on water. So the entire hull of the airplane takes the shock of that. It's not like your regular aircraft where you just have a couple of hard points on the airplane where your landing gear is that take all the shock. They have shock meters on the plane to make sure nothing is overstressed. And as I said at the start of the show, it has the world's most modern cockpit. It's virtual reality. It can fly in the dark. It can fly in smoke. The pilots can see where they are, unlike other aircraft. So the age of the aircraft is not the problem, but he says perhaps there is creeping ageism because he has other firefighting planes that are almost that old and the government still requests them.
Yeah, and it's just really weird. Why not the Mars? You know, I can't understand where the government... I'm not in the back room of meetings. You know, when they have these discussions, they're going to have these discussions in camera probably, and nobody in the communities are involved in that. So I have no idea what's behind the closed doors and why.
Do you feel there's some kind of weird political thing going on?
There could be, and you know, it's been said that political donations from companies and relationships with the Forest Service and contractors have won the day. That's what I have been told. But again, I'm not behind those closed doors.
Exactly. And, we can't afford those $25,000 a plate dinners with the Premier to find out what's going on.
Exactly. And the door, unless you become one of those political figures, you know, and you get to know what you're privy to that information. But unfortunately, Wayne Coulson, local government, probably the UBCM and the AVICC and regional districts are not privy to that. They get whatever press release that the provincial government wants to put out.
The UBCM, the Union of BC Municipalities, is its tune exactly the same as it was 2 years ago? They still want mayors to have the ability to call this water bomber in if they need it?
No, I haven't been on council for a couple of years since the last election, but I have no doubt because the letter was there. The letter was sent by the UBCM, and the AVICC sent another follow-up letter saying, hey, open it up, you know, this resolution was passed, And every time I see something written by the press or on TV, I remind them, because there is a video of our motion too out there saying there's a motion, a resolution that was put on the floor and passed at the UBCM, and you're not listening. You always say, hey, it's great to have the UBCM and all these mayors and regional districts. Here's what we want. Well, this is what we wanted. And what did you do? You didn't hear us.
Do you think with this being an election year, the government might be more willing to listen?
Well, you never know. It's amazing what happens when there's an election year. You know, there's always money to be found at the end. And I always look at it at the end of every election. Wow, we got money suddenly, you know. So hopefully there is, maybe. And I think communities, if you want the Mars water bomber to stay afloat and come in case you have a fire, be ready, on standby. Get out there. Get out there to your MLAs, your MPs, your political people. Get them to start lobbying, write letters. Get out there and do it. The fire departments, they don't fight fires every second of the day, but man, when they're on call and there's a fire, they're out there and you're going, yes, they're there, right? So, I mean, they're not going to be up. The fire departments are 24/7, and Mars water bomber can be 24/7.
Well, right now your local fire department has paramedics that'll go out to an emergency. I would say the Mars water bomber is the equivalent to a flying hospital in that case.
Yeah, yep. You could do that. You could say that. I'm sure everybody else would say the same thing too.
Cindy, if you could talk face to face with Christy Clark this very moment, what would you say to her?
I would ask her why. I would want to know more information. Why is the government not working with Wayne Coulson? What is the difference? I mean, I'm sure she could say because the smaller planes are better and they do more and more. But you've asked Wayne to do all this stuff. He's done it. You know, we've had meetings with Christy Clark, and I'm not sure if it was regarding the water bomber, but we had other meetings. But I would ask why, and I would want to know more information, a lot more information that's not being delivered to the public.
Cindy, is there any place somebody can go online to show their support for the water bomber?
Not at the moment that I know. No, there used to be in 2013 and 14, but why not send it to you? You can forward it or send it to Christy Clark herself. I would just send it to Christy Clark. Start something. Anybody in any community can start online, hey, a protest to the government, and it can be forwarded to the government. If all the communities did that, and then they sent a copy to their MLAs, to the MPs, to their city councils, and to the regional districts, everybody has a copy of it. It's going to get there. Your voice, it's amazing what the public can do. They have a lot of power. Get out there and make your voice known. Make it heard.
Cindy, thank you so much for speaking with us.
Oh, you're welcome.
My guest has been Cindy Solda, former city councillor for Port Alberni for 14 years and the acting chair of the association that represents coastal communities in British Columbia for several years, and of course, very active still in Port Alberni, looking after the interests of British Columbians, especially when it comes to fire safety. You're listening to the Goddard Report on TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Find us on Twitter at TalkDigitalNet. Our popular YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Questions for the show can be emailed to info@howstreet.com. And don't forget to send that email to Premier Christy Clark demanding the Mars water bomber be left on duty, standing on guard for thee. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of Howe Street Media Incorporated.